How does a young woman disappear in plain sight and no one sees a thing? Jessica Hiringa was just 25 years old, a devoted mom, a woman who had made mistakes, but was working hard to turn her life around. On the night of April 26, 2013, she headed into her late shift at the Exxon gas station in Norton Shores, Michigan. It was a small station, quiet, familiar. She'd worked there before. Nothing about that night seemed unusual until the end of her shift, because sometime before 11 p.m., Jessica vanished. When police showed up after a worried customer called 911, they found the station empty. The lights were on, the doors were unlocked, but there was no sign of Jessica anywhere. Her purse, still sitting on the counter. Her cigarettes, untouched. Almost $400 in cash, left behind. The registers hadn't been broken into. Nothing looked stolen. It was like she'd stepped away for a second and never came back. But the clues outside told another story. Drops of red near the gas pumps. A battery cover from a laser sight. A piece from a firearm. Someone had clearly been there. Someone who wanted Jessica gone, fast. And what made this whole thing even more disturbing? There were no security cameras. None. The gas station had zero video surveillance. Not inside, not outside. Nothing to prove what happened to Jessica, and no way to track the person responsible. Even worse, Jessica was working the night shift alone. A young woman, late at night, in a public space, with no cameras, no witnesses, and no protection. It was like someone had set the perfect trap, and she walked right into it. This wasn't some random act. This was planned. Someone watched her, waited for the right moment, and when they struck, they made sure no one would see it happen. Some people blamed the gas station. Others blamed the system. But the one person who never faced danger that night was the one who took her. And what police discovered just hours later would flip this case upside down. A silver minivan, wavy hair, a red or orange sweatshirt. That's the man who kept popping up in witness after witness account. And every single detail made him seem more suspicious. One woman, the manager of the gas station where Jessica worked, said she saw the van circling around the station just before closing time. Not at the front where customers usually park, but behind the building, hidden, out of sight. The manager watched a man step out, lift the rear hatch, and linger. She stayed for a moment, unsure of what she was seeing, but when nothing happened, she drove off. She had no idea that just minutes later, Jessica would disappear. Another witness described a different moment, just one night before the abduction. She said she saw a man talking to Jessica late at night, acting way too friendly. His tone was off. He wasn't just chatting, he was trying to charm her. And when the witness warned Jessica about the danger of working alone at night, the man butted in. He said, "She's got her customers watching out for her. That's not a joke. That's a red flag." Even Jessica seemed uncomfortable. The witness noticed her shaking her head, as if trying to play it off, but clearly uneasy. It wasn't just a weird moment. It was a warning, and no one realized it in time. More witnesses came forward with the same description. The minivan, the wild hair, the red or orange top. This wasn't just coincidence. It was a pattern. Someone was watching Jessica 2 nights in a row. He wasn't there to buy gas. He wasn't there to chat. He was waiting. And then he struck. The truth is, this man didn't come out of nowhere. He'd been planning it, scouting, stalking, watching Jessica's routine like she was prey. And the worst part? Everyone who saw him felt something was off, but no one stopped him. And when police finally started connecting the dots, they realized this man wasn't just a creep in a van. He was a predator, and Jessica wasn't the only one on his list. Just when Jessica Hiringa's case began to fade from headlines, another woman was taken. On June 29, 2014, 14 months after Jessica vanished, 36-year-old Rebecca Blech left her house for a routine jog near her home in Dalton Township, Michigan. It was a sunny Sunday evening, the kind of day where neighbors mow their lawns, families sit on porches, and joggers like Rebecca stick to their usual routes. But this time, something went horribly wrong. Rebecca never made it home. A passing driver saw her lying in a ditch on the side of the road. At first glance, it looked like she may have been hit by a car. But when police arrived, the truth was far worse. Rebecca had been shot multiple times in the head. It was execution style. No struggle, no missing items, and no signs of robbery. Her phone and earbuds were still on her. It wasn't a random mugging. It wasn't a crime of passion. This was a hit. Shell casings were scattered near her body. That was the only solid evidence. And while investigators quickly gathered DNA and ballistic data, they had no suspects, no security footage, no witnesses. Just like Jessica's case, the killer struck fast, left little behind, and disappeared like smoke. Rebecca was a wife, a mom, a well-loved woman who worked as a special needs aide at a local school. She was the last person anyone would expect to be targeted. But someone made her a victim. And the way it was done, quick, efficient, and without reason, set off alarm bells. Many people in the community were quick to draw connections to Jessica's case. 2 women, 2 years apart, both attacked in rural areas of Muskegon County, and both cases stalled fast. It didn't feel like coincidence. It felt like a pattern. Still, despite the similarities, the investigation into Rebecca's murder went cold. Police couldn't find a match for the bullets. No DNA connected to anyone in the system. And just like with Jessica, rumors started to die out. People stopped talking. But whoever did this wasn't gone. He was still watching, still hunting, still waiting for his next chance. And when he struck again, that's when the pieces finally started to fall into place. He almost got away with it, until the wrong girl became the right survivor. April 2016. A teenage girl is walking alone in Laketown Township after a late-night party. She's lost. Her phone is dead. No ride in sight. Then a silver minivan pulls up. The man behind the wheel looks friendly enough at first. Wavy hair, calm voice. He offers his phone so she can call for help. But there's a catch. He says she has to get in the van to use it. She hesitates, but she's stranded, tired, and just wants to get home. So she gets in. The second she shuts the door, the locks click. The man pulls a gun. Her heart drops. This wasn't a helpful stranger. This was a trap. She knew instantly she was in serious danger, but unlike Jessica or Rebecca, this girl had a window of opportunity. Literally. Thinking fast, she asked him to roll down a window so she could get some air. As soon as he did, she launched herself out. Scratched up and terrified, she hit the pavement and ran for her life. She didn't stop running until she found help. And when police arrived, she told them exactly who had tried to take her. His name was Jeffrey Willis. And guess what he was driving? A silver Chrysler Town & Country. The exact same make and model seen outside the gas station on the night Jessica vanished. The same van spotted near Rebecca's jog route. The same creepy presence witnesses described over and over again. Only this time, he slipped. He left a witness. And she lived to tell the story. But what investigators found after that would blow this entire case wide open. You think the story ends with his arrest? Not even close. After the teen's escape, police wasted no time. They got a search warrant and went straight for Jeffrey Willis's van and home. What they uncovered was the stuff of nightmares. Inside the van, the same silver one described by multiple witnesses, they found a gun. But not just any gun. This one was missing a laser sight battery cover, just like the one found at the scene of Jessica Hiringa's disappearance 3 years earlier. That's not a coincidence. That's a connection. A physical piece of evidence tying this man to a vanishing no one had been able to solve. And it gets worse. In the back of the van were syringes filled with a mysterious clear liquid, later identified as a powerful sedative, strong enough to knock someone out in seconds. There were restraints, handcuffs, ropes, tools no normal person should ever have in their vehicle. It wasn't transportation. It was a mobile prison, a moving trap built for control, silence, and pain. Then came the digital evidence. Inside his house, investigators found a computer, and on that computer was a hidden folder. Not just any folder, it was titled VIX, short for victims. Let that sink in. Inside were 2 chilling subfolders, JLH and RSB, the initials of Jessica Lynn Hiringa and Rebecca Sue Bletch. Each folder contained news articles, photos, personal info, files that showed he wasn't just watching these women. He was tracking them, following their stories, obsessing over them long after they were gone. This wasn't some random guy who snapped. This was a calculated predator, someone who planned, stalked, and hunted. He built a digital trophy case to relive the chaos he caused. And while the rest of the world grieved, he got off on the control. What investigators discovered next, hidden behind another layer of encryption, would prove that Jessica and Rebecca weren't his only targets, just the ones we know about. It wasn't just creepy. It was concrete. Once police got their hands on Jeffrey Willis's gun, they sent it in for testing. The results? A perfect match to the shell casings found near Rebecca Bletch's body. Same caliber, same markings, same weapon. That alone was damning, but it didn't stop there. Inside his computer, the same one holding files labeled VIX, investigators found personal photos of both Rebecca and Jessica, not just screenshots from the news. These were deeper, zoomed-in shots, cropped images, saved articles that traced every moment from Jessica's disappearance to Rebecca's murder. He wasn't watching the case unfold, he was reliving it. And then came the password. One of the folders on his device was locked behind a string of characters, J4L27H13. At first, it looked like gibberish. But once detectives broke it down, the meaning was crystal clear. Jessica Lynn Heeringa. April 27, 2013. The day she was officially reported missing. This wasn't random. This was calculated. Willis memorialized his crime through a digital code. He used her name and the exact date to lock away his secrets like trophies. That folder was his sixth shrine, proof that Jessica's vanishing wasn't just an incident. It was something he was proud of. At this point, the evidence was overwhelming. A matching firearm, GPS data, photos, news clippings, files named after victims, passwords built from their names. And yet, this man, this predator, still acted like he had nothing to do with it. He smiled. He denied. He pretended it was all a misunderstanding. But nobody believed him. Not anymore. And when police searched one more location tied to Willis, what they found would leave investigators shaken. Because it wasn't just what was found there, it was what wasn't. Justice doesn't always come easy. But in this case, it came hard, and it came loud. In 2017, after years of silence, stalled leads, and unimaginable pain for two families, Jeffrey Willis was finally dragged into court for the murder of Rebecca Bletch. The evidence against him? Overwhelming. Ballistics, DNA, a weapon that matched, a laptop filled with disturbing content, and a digital paper trail that screamed guilt. The jury didn't need long to decide. He was convicted. Life in prison. No parole. No mercy. One life stolen. One sentence served. But that was just part of the story. Because the following year, in 2018, prosecutors came back again. This time, for Jessica Hiringa. And here's what made that trial different. Jessica's body was never found. There was no gravesite, no remains, no official proof of how she died or where she went. All they had were clues, digital files, physical evidence, and horrifying patterns. But it was enough. Prosecutors laid it out piece by piece. The missing laser sight, the matching van, the creepy behavior, the folder marked with her initials, and the computer password based on the night she vanished. It wasn't just suspicion, it was obsession. And obsession, backed by facts, turned into conviction. Once again, the jury didn't hesitate. Jeffrey Willis was found guilty of Jessica's murder. Another life sentence. Another chance at freedom, gone forever. And this time, even without a body, justice still hit him like a freight train. But while the court handed down punishment, Jessica's family still had nothing to bury, nothing to bring home, nothing to close the wound. And that made one thing painfully clear. Locking up a monster doesn't always erase the damage he's done. Just when it seemed like the case had reached its final chapter, another name came crawling out of the shadows. Kevin Bloom, Jeffrey Willis's cousin, a former prison guard, a man who had worn a badge and took an oath to uphold justice. Turns out, he was hiding one of the darkest secrets in the entire case. During questioning in 2016, Kevin cracked. He admitted that he hadn't just known what Jeffrey did to Jessica, he helped cover it up. According to Kevin, the day after Jessica disappeared, Jeffrey invited him over under the lie of a casual hangout. But what he saw when he walked in was no party. It was a horror scene. There, lying on the floor, was Jessica Hiringa, unclothed, bound, and lifeless. Her head injured, her body treated like trash. Kevin didn't call police. He didn't run. He didn't scream. Instead, he stayed and helped Jeffrey finish what he started. Together, they wrapped Jessica in a sheet. Together, they loaded her into a vehicle. And together, they drove out to a remote stretch of land near Sheridan Road, where Willis had already dug a hole. It was premeditated, planned, like he'd done this before. Kevin stood there while his cousin buried a woman, and then he walked away like nothing happened. Let that sink in. A man sworn to protect and serve, helped dispose of a murder victim's body like it was some chore on a to-do list. Bloom later tried to backpedal, changing his plea from guilty to no contest. But the damage was already done. His silence gave a killer time. His loyalty to Jeffrey destroyed any chance Jessica's family had of finding her in those first crucial hours. And still, all these years later, Jessica's body has never been found. Kevin knew where she was buried. Jeffrey knew where she was buried. But neither of them have ever given up the exact location. Why? Power. Control. Because even behind bars, Willis still wanted to own the last piece of her. And if you thought that was the lowest point of this case, wait until you hear how he acted inside the courtroom. Some cases just end in prison time. But this one, it pushed people to change the law. After the trial, Rebecca Bletch's family couldn't forget one moment. When Jeffrey Willis stood up in court, smirked, and walked out in the middle of their victim impact statements. While they cried, while they described the pain of losing a daughter, a sister, a mother, he blew them a kiss on the way out. A kiss, like it was all a game. And the judge let him do it. That was the breaking point. Rebecca's family took their anger and grief and turned it into action. They fought to pass the Rebecca Blech Law, a bill that requires convicted criminals to sit and listen to every word spoken during victim impact statements. No more walking out. No more mockery. If you ruin someone's life, you're going to sit there and hear what that destruction sounds like. And in 2018, the bill passed. It became law in the state of Michigan. One family turned tragedy into progress and forced the justice system to act like justice actually matters. But Jessica's family? They were fighting a different battle. They wanted to prevent this from happening in the first place. Jessica had been working alone, late at night, at a gas station with no security cameras. No backup, no protection. Her family called it what it was, a setup for disaster. So they pushed for what became known as the Jessica Heeringa Law, a law that would require 24/7 stores to have working surveillance and at least 2 employees on night shifts. Seems simple, right? Basic safety. Cameras. Another person around in case something goes wrong. But lawmakers pushed back. They said it was too expensive for small businesses, that it was a financial burden, that some stores couldn't afford the upgrades. So instead of saving lives, they saved dollars. 12 years later, the bill still hasn't been fully enforced. 12 years. And all because someone decided that keeping people alive wasn't worth the cost. Think about that. Jessica died working a job that couldn't give her even a basic layer of protection. Her family asked for change. They were told to wait. So while Jeffrey Willis sits in prison, her loved ones are still out here begging for lawmakers to care. And as for Jessica's body, it's still out there, somewhere. And Willis? He's still keeping that secret. In the middle of all this pain and horror, there's one person people forget to talk about. Jessica's son, Zevin. When Jessica vanished, he was just a toddler, barely old enough to form full sentences, let alone understand what happened to his mom. One moment, he had a loving mother who worked late nights to provide for him. The next, she was gone forever. No goodbye, no explanation, no closure. And it didn't stop there. His father, Dakota Quayle Dyer, was later arrested on drug charges. That one mistake took him out of Zevin's life, too. So in a matter of months, this little boy lost both of his parents. One to violence, one to the system. After that, Jessica's sister stepped in and filed for emergency custody. But what happened next? That's where things go quiet. There are no recent records, no public updates, no media follow-up, just silence. Today, Zevin is likely around 18 years old, an adult now. But where he is, how he's doing, or what he even knows about the nightmare that changed his life, nobody knows for sure. And still, Jessica's body has never been found. The one person who could bring peace to that family, Jeffrey Willis, refuses to say a word. He won't talk. He won't reveal the burial site. He won't show even an ounce of remorse. He's locked away, yes, but he still holds the final piece of power. And he knows it, because for monsters like him, control is the last thing they cling to. And while Jessica's family keeps fighting for answers, and while her son lives a life forever marked by trauma, Jeffrey sits in prison, smirking behind bars, hiding the one truth that could finally let them heal. And that says everything you need to know about the kind of man he really is.